Okay, hello, ladies.
Hello again.
Hello.
So, book club this week is we're taking a series. We each took one book of the series to discuss. Denise, which book did you take?
I did Surrounded by Narcissists.
Okay, I did Surrounded by Energy Vampires. And Sasheen, what did you choose?
I did Surrounded by Psychopaths.
Okay. So, before we start, if you have not read the original book, Surrounded by Idiots, it is a book that we recommend you read first because a lot of his books refer back to that book. Okay. I was very excited.
It's one of my favorites.
They are.
Well, I was going to toss this out there for Surrounded by Idiots, is that it is I love the way it breaks everything down. I know Mary and I have talked about it before, but it's a good people book to learn why people do what they do. So I love this and it breaks it down so easily.
I mean, there's many more factors that go into just realizing what color somebody is, but a lot, it just fits right into place. I remember Denise and I, we were talking about people we personally know together, and we were just color-coding them.
Mm-hmm. And we nailed it.
I thought
do we have that recorded and up? I can't remember.
It was the problem with that episode had been is that we were recording it at a conference, and it was just, no, it wasn't.
It wasn't that one. It was Beyond Bulletproof. That was right. Beyond Bulletproof was the one that wasn't working.
Okay, then you know what? We probably do have that up on the podcast. So wherever you listen to podcasts, it's there. All right. And any of the descriptions, we also will post the link to the podcast.
I'm going to look. Is this podcast under book club?
No.
Has it been changed?
The podcast is Women Petpreneurs on Spreaker. So it's Women Petpreneurs Presents Book Club. Couldn't be that long ago. So while she's doing this, I'm going to talk about my book, Surrounded by Energy Vampires. Okay. These are the people who suck the life out of you. All right. And one of the things, and it dug a little bit into like psychopaths and narcissists, but not too much. He recommends buying that book and reading it to get more of a complete breakdown of it. But he goes into some of like the major types of energy vampires. Okay. But my actual favorite part of the book wasn't even that part. It was the part of the book that he went into and how you are your own personal energy vampire.
I found it. Sorry.
Okay, what is it?
Okay, you can keep going. I just have it on Spotify. Go ahead. You keep going. I wanted to say I found it.
Okay, good. So I'm on Spotify. Okay. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so send me that so I can include it in the notes for this one. All right. So the original review of Surrounded by Idiots. Okay. So anyway, so I think personally, I got the most use out of how am I personally draining my energy? And that was literally like half the book. So the first half of the book was how all the different types. I mean, we've all worked with these people, the ones who don't ever do anything. We all got a really good dose of this in high school when we were in like group projects, and just like the one person that does all the work and everyone else who doesn't, and you still got to get a passing grade. So you do the work for everybody so you can get a passing grade on it. From bullies to people who there's always something wrong. Okay. Right. So anything that's coming that this person is just a dread, no matter for what the reason is, you dread them. He covers in the book and he goes into ways of dealing with them. Now, this is my only caveat about the book. Okay. I think his suggestions make sense when you are in like an office work environment, dealing with other people. I am not in that environment. So anyone who is trying to bully me into that, I got to have my way of dealing with it is just cut them out of my life. Zero, because I don't have to work with them. Right. So the book relies heavily on with the assumption that you are working with these people and you don't have any real choice. You're
Right.
working. Okay. But the second half of the book, I got a lot out of all the ways that I'm personally draining my own energy. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I highly recommend the book. Not a book I'm going to buy to keep as a reference, but nonetheless, I would listen to it again.
I started, I actually downloaded it on Audible. So I started listening to it, I think on my way to St. Louis, but I sort of got bored and it was pretty far into my drive. I couldn't listen to books anymore. I needed to Blair radio. So I haven't started finishing it again, but I did get it on Audible. I'll probably, when we head out the next time, listen to it on the plane and stuff like that. So I did get the Surrounded by It, or not the not Surrounded by It, it's the energy vampire ones because you were talking about it. So
Sounds interesting. I might read it.
I said if I was in an office workshop environment, the book probably would have had way more use for me, or I might have paid more attention to how to deal with them. I could just only remember going, yeah, that's a no. Oh, no, I'm not encouraging that behavior because I'm not working with that behavior. I'm not working around that behavior. All right. So nonetheless. So which one did you have now, Denise?
I did Surrounded by Narcissists. It was a
Okay.
toss-up between Narcissist and Energy Vampires. I don't know why. For whatever reason, I read the descriptions and I decided to do Narcissist. It was interesting. I very much loved the first Surrounded by Idiots. I will say it too broke down into two separate parts. And I do see the office style, right? Like it was more, they still talked about people in your personal world, but most certainly dealing with people. And I would also like to preface that with that is his whole thing. He coaches offices. He coaches businesses in employees and getting along and spotting this and stuff. So that's where the original Surrounded by Idiots came from, was he got sick of bosses saying, and Session, I don't know if you know this, he got sick of bosses, or bosses would always call him, employers, companies, and said, I'm surrounded by idiots and I need your help. And that's how Surrounded by Idiots came about.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, so now you know the backstory. So this is his realm, is working in work environments. For Narcissist, he did very much. So his second book was Psychopaths, and then people started wondering about the narcissism side, which is where he wrote this book from. He had to do research for this book, so you could tell that it wasn't in his wheelhouse at the time, and it did go over narcissistic personality disorder in the first part, which is wonderful to hear somebody talk about what the difference actually is, that there is this personality disorder and this thing. We overuse a lot of words, and I think narcissism is one of the words we overuse. So the second part was talking about the narcissism that we would typically be used to. So like the first part of the book for me didn't really resonate because I only know probably one person that would fall into the disorder. Everyone else is just their mannerisms go ahead and mimic what narcissism is. So everyone has narcissistic tendencies or narcissistic type behaviors. So it's putting into perspective. This is what I liked about it. It was putting it into perspective that it's not always necessarily this disorder, but it's people are always going to have some of these personality traits that we lump into narcissism. So it was sort of trying to figure out the difference. It was giving you tools to figure out what is real narcissistic personality disorder, and then how are the ways to handle some of those behaviors that we classify as narcissism, and the more relevant things that we're going to see on a day-to-day. So my only issue with the book was I had a few, but the biggest one is if you read Surrounded by Idiots, the references to the different colors is very minimal. And I don't know if that's how it is in all of the books, but at least in the book I read, and I was looking more for like the first book into this book and actually have more defined of the different colors like the first one did. So it was a good book if you feel like you're surrounded by narcissistic behavior. It definitely would help, but it was also a little repetitive on how to handle that as well. But I think it's repetitive because that's how you handle it. Like there's not a magic, you handle this most of the different, behaviors in the same way. So I liked it. It didn't speak to me with things going on in my time, like when Mary was talking about energy vampires, which then I'm like, oh, I should have read that one because that probably would have went more with what I was going through.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a very interesting read, and I like that it separated the diagnosed type side with what we're used to seeing behavior side.
One of the things about the energy vampire books, I was reading at a time when there was like this much thought of working for a company. Okay. In one ear, out the other. And I started reading through the book, and then I remembered why I never wanted to work in an office ever again. Okay. But it also, in our industry, it also gives me a little bit of insight to some of the people that we deal with. Okay. So in one of them, one of the topics is that drama queens. And we have a lot of drama queens in our industry. We do. Okay. And some are more vocal than others. But there is, and I couldn't understand why this one particular drama queen doesn't like me. In fact, hasn't blocked me on Facebook, but just doesn't like me. It's kind of made it kind of clear. And I've not done anything. I've not said anything. I've not done anything to say, well, he's got reason for it. Okay. But the book actually gave me why he doesn't like me. And it's because I don't fawn over him. Okay.
Okay.
And that's it. That's the only reason. Right. So it did help to understand how some people, and not to take it personally. It's not personal. Has really nothing to do with me. I don't fawn over everybody. My husband will be the first one to tell you that. Okay. My kids will tell you that. If they do something good, I'll tell them they did something good, but I'm not fawning over them. So that's not my personality. You guys are great.
I see Sashin's gears turning. What is she thinking about over there? She's just taking it all in.
So I haven't read anything by this person before. So I haven't read Surrounded by Idiots. I haven't read Surrounded by Energy Vampires. And I haven't read Surrounded by Narcissists. I read Surrounded by Psychopaths. So I jumped into the deep end of the ocean, so to speak, on this person's work. A lot of what he writes about is from my field in communication, interpersonal studies, from intercultural studies, from organizational literature. So a lot of what I was reading, I was like, oh yeah, okay, yep, it all makes sense. I appreciate the way that it's written. I could live without the color coding, actually, but that's just because that's for the lay people to make sense of the system. So, and I think that works because it makes it digestible. I liked Surrounded by Psychopaths. I thought it was kind of a wild ride in the sense that he tells a lot of stories. I don't know if he does in all the other books. He tells a lot of stories, some very personal to his life. So it was like, that's fascinating. I don't know that I would have told the story, but that is why you put them in the book. I like his writing style. I think it's easy to digest, which I appreciate, because the reason my gears were turning is because I wrote a book about narcissism that I just haven't published. And one of the reasons why I haven't published it is because of something that you said, which is people think there are a lot of narcissists running around without understanding what narcissism actually is. and how it actually manifests itself in people. And I don't want to write a tome about narcissism. There's this lovely thing called the DSM-5 that goes into great detail about what narcissism and
Right.
narcissistic personality disorder is, right? So I feel like it's nice that it's from what you're saying, it's nice that there's another book that kind of says that, listen, what you think is narcissism is not actually narcissism. Like, if you understand what narcissism
Correct.
truly is, that person that's just being a jackass isn't a narcissist. They're just a jackass. That's it. Like, they might have some,
Mm-hmm.
he says the same thing in the psychopaths book, which is, you might have some what you believe to be psychopathic tendencies. You might think you're cold or not very feeling, or have flat affect to certain things. You're not a psychopath. You're just you. That's just part of your makeup of the person that you are. Because a true psychopath, and he goes on to give sources, which I appreciate, and says,
Mm-hmm.
here's what true psychopathy actually looks like. And so I did find the read interesting. I don't know that I'd have to read it again, but I was fascinated by his approach to it. And I think it was really well explained, in terms of there are certain people that fit his description of psychopathy that I was like, yep, I am fairly certain I know at least 2 psychopaths just based on what I understand about psychopathy and how psychopathy works in people. I am fairly certain, would bet money on those people being true psychopaths. And the thing about it is, if roughly 7% of the population has a psychopathic tendency, like they're true psychopaths, we probably all know at least one person or have run across at least one person who is a psychopath. The problem with psychopathy is that it hides so well. And so you never know it's there. And I like that he talks about and that's where the stories really help, of him talking about the havoc that gets wrought by people who are truly psychopathic. Unfortunately, I think I was married to one. So that that was really fascinating. And I don't know that I would read Surrounded by Idiots because I don't work in the workforce anymore, but he pulls from academics and Surrounded by Psychopaths. And I was like, oh yeah, higher ed is full of psychopathic people. And which may sound weird because you're like, well, higher ed isn't 6% of the population. It's a really small percentage of people who go on to get their higher education. I mean, we make it seem like the whole world gets advanced degrees. They don't. They really don't. A very small percentage of people go on to get things like PhDs. And the reason is because it's this long drawn out process that you either start in your undergrad and you just keep going, or like me, you come back to it at a later date. But there's not that many of them, and a high percentage of them wash out and never complete it. So anyway, all that to say, I was like, gosh, I'm fairly certain I went to school with at least 4 of these people. And, which, given what higher education is like, it shouldn't surprise you that people who are probably in med school exhibit some of these psychopathic tendencies. But are they truly psychopathic? I don't know. I don't know that there's as many as people like to think there are, like narcissists, but there are probably a lot more, and they are very destructive. And I really appreciated his way of writing that the destructive nature of the psychopathic personality is impacting you and you don't see it happening to you because you're not supposed to, which I really like how he dispels the notion that you just know, because you don't just know. It's like a true narcissist. You don't really know that person's a narcissist at all. We think we know because we think we're really astute at reading other people. But that is what a true narcissist and a true person with psychopathy, there's no way that you know. They are masters at hiding their true nature. They're just masters at that. And he talks about that. And I love that.
Yeah, in the narcissist one, what I thoroughly enjoyed about it as well is the whole point was most people who are narcissistic they're never going to get the help because they don't think they need help.
Ding, ding, ding.
That's the narcissism part.
Exactly.
So it's this, it's that whole, and I'm like, so you could see this, but they're not going to change, because in order to change, and narcissists don't typically rehab because, whatever you want to, they don't, because
Right.
They don't think that there's a problem to actually go and seek help for. So I did like that he made sure to put that in there
That's
as well.
In case you want to see the cover. I got mine through Libby, so
Okay.
in case you want to see the cover.
So I did like that too, and you were mentioning that about, you know, psychopath. I like that he did put in there about narcissists that, you know, they have to know that they are, and they don't think they are.
Right, and I think like he mentions Hitler as one of his examples, which I think is an obvious one, but he also mentions this one student in college that he encounters who, or excuse me, there's a couple of students, but this one female psychopath, which is a smaller percentage of the population, which just handle their mental stress better than men do. And so the percentage of women in the population of narcissists and psychopaths is smaller, oddly enough. But he was literally stalked by this woman in such a way that it destroyed his life. But she never saw the problem, right? Because people like this don't see your destruction as a problem. It is just part of their life. So they're destroying your life, but that is a that's a tertiary effect of them just getting what they want. And that's the true horror of psychopathy and narcissism the same way. And he kind of captures that, like, they're not thinking about your destruction as if it's a real thing to them, because it's so not a real thing to them. They don't have that empathy connection that says, I probably shouldn't destroy your life, because that's the thing to do. In their mind, it's, I really want to get this thing, and you just happen to be in the way. You're just a stepping stone to the next thing that I want. If you happen to get destroyed, then, I mean, sucks to be you, I guess. And they keep on going. So it was a fascinating read. Like I said, I don't necessarily know that I'd have to read it again, but I think you would enjoy the book.
Okay.
Good to know. I'll have to read that one. I'll have to go on my list.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some fascinating stories in it, but I think if you read the first one, like the system of the color coding and whatnot, you'll find that does repeat in this one as well. I hadn't read the first one, so it was new for me, but I'm like, oh, I mean, okay.
All right. Well, the whole color coding system is just it's probably not a whole lot different than like Briggs Myers or
it's not. Yeah, absolutely.
Or any of the other categorizing systems that are out there. And what I find is that people really, really gravitate to categorizing things. So he's built a whole series of books on categorizing people.
Is it just me or are you all frozen?
I don't know.
Hello?
Can you hear us?
What just happened? I can hear you, but my screen is frozen. That's weird.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Then that's yes.
Okay, there you are. I don't know what's happening, but I'm back. Okay.
Okay. So the whole series of book is good. I mean, honestly and truly, start off with if you're really interested in this series, start off with Surrounded by Idiots, because he goes into really in depth about what the colors are. So even in Surrounded by Energy Vampires, he goes into the colors, but I'm not going to say more of an afterthought.
I think it's the assumption that you've read the first book, so you know what he's talking about.
He mentions that too. You know, he says, you know what, you really ought to read the first book, because he doesn't want to repeat the entire book in this book.
Right.
So read the first book and then come back and read this book again. All right. So it might make a little bit more sense. Okay. So next book club. I'll give it a thumb. Like I said, I'm glad I read it. It gave me a lot of insight to some of the people I'm surrounded with, but also really clinched the fact that, I'm not going back in any office for any reason. That's simply not happening. I'm too close to Social Security to even care about it at this point. So anyway, it's a good series. I think it's well worth people's time to read, especially when you think you're surrounded by this.
Yeah.
Or you think person that you're working with is a psychopath.
Correct.
Maybe not.
Might check it out.
Okay. So we'll see everybody on the next one is on the 28th of June.
Mhm.
And we're going to do a fun series instead. And Denise, this is going to be the first time reading this series.
Mhm.
Okay. So we'll see everybody in a couple of weeks.